So welcome. It's really nice to be here over here in Paris at your new office. BlaBlaCar, can you please share the start? Where did it begin?
It began because I needed to go back to my home place in Vendée, which is about 500 kilometers away from Paris. It was Christmas time, and actually there was no train available. And in the end, I did travel with my little sister, who was a driver. She had a car. Then we went together back to Vendée. And on the road, I remarked that almost all the cars were empty. I was like, wow, there was no space in the train, lots of passengers looking for solutions, and all the cars are empty. There's something to do here. And if we could give 20 or 30 euros to the drivers so that they bring you home with their empty seats, they'd be happy, I'd be happy, and it would be a brand new transport network.
And so you had the idea, and what were your next steps?
Coding. Yeah, I was, the thing is, I had been doing computer science for years. I knew how to code algorithms and some websites. And so I began to code, and then after I began to build the team with the right people. And so after that, it was a long period where I had lots of doubts, and but then the idea was to go beyond the liquidity or the threshold where the network effect would be working, and you'd have enough drivers for passengers looking for trips, because at the beginning you have drivers offering some trips, passengers looking for other trips, and they never meet. And so the whole challenge is to have passengers looking for the same trips as what the drivers are publishing. And so this is the entire marketplace issue. It took years to make it work and to have it right, both in the product experience and in the marketplace volume.
And what were your biggest lessons, but also failures in getting from scratch to this success?
The biggest learning is really, well, the thing that really helped me a lot is that I was myself a user of the service, which meant that I believed that it would work one day, and it really helped me in not giving up, because I knew that if this service existed at scale, I would use it myself. And so this really helped me in not giving up. Then the failures are more about thinking big and ambitious at first is easier than to think sometimes too local. So it's better, like for example, for the branding, we launched the brand BlaBlaCar later in the process. It's feasible, but if we had been with this international brand right from the start, would have been easier, I think, because we wouldn't have had to change the brand in the middle of the expansion.
Okay, so what was the original name of BlaBlaCar then?
It was covoiturage. That's a French word.
Yeah,
ride sharing. And so covoiturage in English was covoiturage, and in Spanish was covoituraje, which doesn't work.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
And BlaBlaCar was more international.
And
so this, plus the fact that we also began by selling platforms to companies, and it was a good school for us to learn about the product and to learn about the service. But for those platforms, you get to deliver a service for a company. The company buys the service, but then the people who are really using the service are the employees themselves. So it's biased because your end users are not the ones who actually pay for the service, and you have to make the service so that the people who pay for it are happy and the people who use it are happy as well, and sometimes it conflicts. So whereas now with the C2C platform, we have the full BlaBlaCar marketplace platform. It's very easy because the end users are the people who also finance the service, and it's much easier to find out what are the main functionalities we need to put on the website.
Yeah, so in the beginning you also maybe also partly financed your own expedition by building BlaBlaCar, but also to building platforms for other companies, and then learned from these experience that you also could use again for your own organization.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
And then, because you said at one moment there's a moment that the demand and supply is in a good balance, and then you start to grow. What were the biggest challenges in the first phase of building the company to grow?
It was making the best possible experience and the best product. And also, by best experience, I mean both the product and the customer support. Like answering to all the people who write to you because they have this question or this other question, and also making it so that the service works for most of the people who use the service, and calling the members to improve all the time the experience. It is key in the starting phase, because you get many actors who actually do the same job as you. We had like 10 competitors. And then when the market is really getting to a point where it's becoming ready, it's crucial that you have the best product, because people will try out all the platforms and they will end up using the product which is the best and has the best fit for their needs. Mm-hmm. So if you focus on the quality of your product from day one, when you start, you have better chances of gathering all the people who will be actually using this kind of service and becoming the leader in your market.
Yeah, and what made you really different from the other competitors in these periods?
It was the fact that we wanted to make it so that drivers and passengers get in contact as soon as possible, the fastest we can, so through functionalities and things like that, and also the fact that we were actually answering to all the people who were writing to us. Like, we never left an email without an answer.
Yeah.
And this is actually key, because when a market is starting, the people know that there is no leader and there is no like really structured entity that is able to handle the entire service. And so they see the websites and the services as small entities, and they don't trust them a lot. But if you answer to all the members, they're like, oh, okay, there are people behind this website, yep. And there is a serious team behind there. It's not just it's not just a screen, and there are people taking care of this service, and this builds trust over time.
Yeah, so you add really the human factor to a online platform.
Yes,
and
show that you care through the product, and show that you care through the member service, and then make a good positioning and explanation. We also did a lot of media work, explaining to the press, to the TVs, to the radios what we were doing, because it was new. And so we explained a lot, so that there was some kind of exposure and explanations about the activity which would reach to our future members.
Yeah. Yes, and it was also really a fresh market, so you really had to explain a lot.
Yes.
At the other side, carpooling is as old as we say in Holland. In Holland, I have no idea if it's also a good English translation, but it's as old as the way to Rome. So what do you think is the most important new thing in this whole ride-sharing business? What make it really interesting these days?
We ported the concept on mobile with all the smartphones. It makes the service very relevant. Even in last minute and for smaller distances. So this really helped in placing the service beyond, and also the fact that we're using all the GPS coordinates to help the matching happen. So we're able to match people who go approximately the same way, and so we offer a lot of possibilities for drivers and passengers to meet. All those parameters, plus the fact that we have functionalities which allow people to meet very fast, made the service different.
Yeah, interesting. And going back to really the first phase, because you said you started by yourself and also did some programming on the website. What was the first person you hired when you wanted to expand?
So in the beginning, it's not really hiring; it's finding co-founders. Mm-hmm. It's finding people who will believe, like you, that this crazy thing will happen. So this took months and years, actually. And then the first hire we did was in 2009 for communications. We hired Laure, who is just right there, and you've seen her. Mm-hmm. And she joined us to take care of the communications part, like as I mentioned, like it was very important for us to do some education and to explain our activity to the medias, and this was her role from day one.
And then you start growing, and then you grow in France, but then also comes a moment when you grow to other countries. What was your strategy when you entered new countries? Because you have to deal with new languages, new currencies, law, lots of things.
We have 3 ways of entering a new country. Either we find a team who's already doing ride sharing on the ground and who has started a service and is looking for liquidity. And then we make a partnership with this structure saying, okay, we want to expand in this country. Do you want to come with us and build the service with us? Because then we find a plug and play team, which actually already knows what ride sharing is, which is motivated a lot, hopefully which is very skilled for the future. And so this is the best combination. Then what we can do as well is hire a local country manager. If we don't find a team already formed, we can hire a local country manager who will become the person who will develop the service in the country. Or we can grow organically with resources, people we already have in the company who have the cultural fit and the motivation to go in the next country and develop the service from there.
Yeah, and when, like I heard, you're also now expanding to Russia. At what way did you enter this market from these 3?
We made a partnership with a local team named Podorozniki.
Okay.
And so then we switched the service to BlaBlaCar, and that's how we expanded in Russia over the past months.
Yeah, that's, I think, also a really good way to especially when you expand fast and also where you want to have a good base in a country. And how is the funding of the company from the start organized?
There are all the classical steps of any startup. You begin with your own money, not much. And the best way to not lose money is to not spend a lot. So that's when you eat a lot of pasta and you don't pay yourself for years and you count any euro. Then there's a phase where you get some traction and you can attract some business angels and some friends who've seen you like working on the project for a few months or years, and they say, well, I believe this will work. Okay, here is a few euros for helping you, or a few thousand euros to help you grow. That's a business angel and friends phase. And then you get your first round of VC funding. So we got a very good VC fund from France named Isaï, that was in 2010, who injected like 1.2 million euros in the company to help us find an economical equilibrium, like see if we could have a business model which would help us grow and scale. Then we raised other funds from Axel Partners, who are the VC firm for Facebook, Dropbox, LinkedIn, Spotify, Kayak, and Rovio, and other companies like this, which have been international successes. And then with the goal this time of reproducing what we had been doing in France in other countries, in new countries. And then more recently we raised another fund because we have proven that we are able to expand the service and to get some traction in other countries. We just raised $100 million from Index Ventures, who is also an international fund funding marketplaces and actors in the tourism space. And they really want us this time to expand beyond being simply international, become really global, and make it so that the service which we have proven we can develop in several countries in Europe, now we can develop it more globally on a full scale.
Yes, I think it's really a really fascinating adventure the last year. When you look back at the last $100 million VC money, what are you going to use the money for?
For expansion, well, since it's so difficult in the early days of the platform to get to liquidity from the fact that you need to match drivers with starting points, ending points, and times for their trips, with passengers having the same 3 other requirements, the odds actually, if you take random trips, the odds that you get to match the driver and the passengers are very, very low. So if you want to reach liquidity and have some offers from the drivers which match the demands from the passengers, then you get to expand quickly and you have to get to liquidity very fast. The way you do that is by having a big push of your activity both in the medias and also in marketing channels, so that you get known as fast as you can, and so you get more people on the website in the initial phase, so that you don't spend years trying to get to liquidity.
Yeah.
And so we use the funding to really accelerate time, and without having to wait for years until drivers and passengers meet on the same routes. And so if you raise money to accelerate this process.
Yeah, I think it's also a great momentum, because now these days it's also, I think, the time to make this next step. And your story is really beautiful from you having an idea till this company where we're over here right now. They're working for about 150 people about now for BlaBlaCar.
Yeah.
And how do you, because I think one of the greatest challenges of these new collaborative economy startups is how can you keep this DNA? How can you, because this is also a complete different environment than your first office, but probably at your kitchen table at home. How do you keep this DNA where you started with BlaBlaCar while expanding the company?
It's all about the culture. And so what we did a year and a half ago was to build our values for the company, the values we wanted to share with the new people who will be joining us in the future. So we wrote them down, actually. We wrote 10 values. And among them you find values like fun and serious, meaning that yes, we're having fun together building the new transport network of the future, but we're also very serious in the way we do it. We have values like the member is the boss, which is maybe basic, but it's actually it actually helps us keeping the focus on delivering the best service we can to our members. You have values like share more, learn more, which help us sharing knowledge among us. We have values like think it, build it, use it. We are users of the BlaBlaCar platform. I don't know if you've seen, but in the corridor over there, we have the portraits of all the people in the team who are actually ambassadors on the website, which means they're using a lot the website. Mm-hmm. So we are using our service, and this really helps us improving the product all the time. We have many other values which help us keep the momentum and keep the direction. And values are actually here to help each one of us getting more autonomous and also more responsibilized, with more responsibility, because since we're growing so fast and we're a startup, we have new decisions to take every day. And given the situation, since we don't have processes, we can't rely on things which are already written. And so each one of us has to make their own decision on the daily basis. And so once you have the values, it's easier to take the right decisions for the company. So it's really through the values and the company culture that we maintain the direction and the spirit in which we have started. Yeah,
I think it's really important to make sure that these are not just some sentences on the wall, but are really that people are really going to live the brand. And what way are you looking for the right people? Because you're hiring lots of people these days. I think there's also a small danger because of the 100 million. It's maybe it's also attracting people who are focusing on the money and not on the culture. And what way? How does a really BlaBlaCar ideal employee looks like? And how do you filter these from all these applications?
You get to really discuss anyway with anyone who wants to join the company. You ask for the reasons why they want to join. You ask if they actually what they think about the values, and then you have all the motivations of the people, and then you can't invent passion or you can't invent motivation. You can fake them, but we're looking for people who don't fake, and who are actually genuine in the way they feel for collaborative consumption, for the transport network we're building, for all the community we have today, for all the trust issues that we have to build together, for the excellence of our service. And so once you ask all the questions about the real values of the company, you get to really know and understand if the people you are seeing for interviews are genuine or not.
Yeah, I guess that's right. And also when you're really good in living the brand, so I did also an interview at Lego, and they say, because we're such a strong brand, people who don't match with the brands, they don't come to us, because everybody knows how we are.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to maintain
That's
that.
why it's important as well to externalize part of the culture, because then before you have people coming for interviews, they know the company already. And if they don't like the culture, they just don't show up. And so if they like what they see, they come and they go through the interview process.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, I think. And what was my next question? When you are looking to the future of BlaBlaCar, because you were saying a couple of times transportation, does it also mean that the next step, or maybe some 5 steps ahead, is also remove the car words and go into other transportation issues?
There are like 10 ways we can go from now on, but really for now and for the next 2-3 years, we are 100% focused on international expansion and on being global, which means we are not like looking at alternatives for now, like doing some things different than we do today, except adapting our service and product to new cultures. And so, yeah, once we are global and we have more scale, we'll be thinking about probably other services, but we're really not there yet.
No, I think it's a
and it's very hard to do both, like becoming global at the same time as you diversify your activity. For now, we don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
We'll just focus on becoming global, and then we'll see.
Good choice. I think it's really important what you said, but on the other side, you also can think about how can we integrate our service in other existing models. I think maybe it's also really good to think about that. But then when you're looking at the collaborative economy, because in which year did you start it?
2004, and then incorporating the company in 2006.
So you're now in collaborative consumption, or how to call it? Everybody is.
Yeah, well, it wasn't called collaborative consumption at the time.
No, but you're now in this business for 10 years. We're now, like in Holland, we see lots of media hype about everything about the sharing economy. Last year it was the hype about everything that has to do with crowdfunding. How do you, with your experience in this sharing economy of collaborative consumption, how to say it, how do you look at all these media hype and all these new startups and discussions about the sharing economy?
I think there is a tremendous potential for the sharing economy. But then the way people talk about it or don't talk about it shouldn't affect a lot what we do, because if we were affected by what people say when nobody was thinking it was hype, we wouldn't have built what we've built. So now that it's said that sharing economy is hype, yeah, it doesn't change anything for us. Then if tomorrow they say it's not hype, it doesn't change anything for us. We're really in a phase where anyway what matters is the growth of the activity and the fact that we actually have drivers and passengers meeting and traveling together. That's the most important. And then all the noise around, we just don't really
just ignore.
Listen to it.
Yeah, really good. And when you look at the future, beside BlaBlaCar, of the collaborative economy, what has to happen, what has to change to make it really a sustainable model? Because there are lots of discussions with almost all companies about strategy, about business models, about almost everything. But what do you think has to change, or what is really important to make it a sustainable model?
Trust, building trust between people who've never met on a massive scale. This is what is important. That's what we're building every day. We have a trust framework we have designed, which we call the DREAMS model, which actually states that in order to build trust between people who have never met, each one of us will need several kinds of information. You will want to have some information which is declared, information rated, engaged, active, moderated, and social. That's the 6 pillars of trust. And so we are building one pillar after the other in the system so that people actually know with whom they will be traveling when they do travel. So the declared information is very easy. It's like your first name, last name, picture, preferences. Do you know why BlaBlaCar is named BlaBlaCar, by the way?
Yeah, yes, yeah.
That's because you choose if you're blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
or blah, blah,
yeah,
blah.
yeah.
This is
I used
preference.
to get here, we also had two guests in our car through BlaBlaCar.
Okay.
So it's, we are also using it ourselves.
Okay, and so that's on the declared side. So this is declared information. Then you have the rated information, which is the members being able to rate each other. So you get to develop a lot more trust towards people who have, of course, lots of ratings and good ratings. Then you have the engagement, which is formalized usually by either the fact that you say on the phone to the other that you will be coming, or you pay online beforehand, which shows that you are actually really serious about coming tomorrow at 6:30 at this meeting point. This is the engagement phase. Then you have the active part of information, which is, did the person log on the website an hour ago? Does the person respond to 98% of the requests which are made on the website, or only 12%? This is the activity part. Then you have moderation on the website. The M of Dreams is moderation, which you will bring through moderating all the texts and the images you have on the website, but also verifying, checking the phone numbers, the emails, email addresses, the bank accounts. And then you have the social angle of the profiles, which allows all our members to link their profile, for example, to their Facebook profile. And then it will show on their BlaBlaCar profile that they have 312 friends on Facebook, or this kind of information, which will help the product in gaining in more trust. And so we have discovered, by listening to members and by listening to their needs, that's why the member is a boss. We listen to what they have to tell us and what they want to see in the service being developed in the future. And then we have built this Dreams model year after year, and it has helped the growth, and it has helped the service becoming really mainstream, because now on BlaBlaCar, you know with whom you will be departing.
Yeah, and talking about this trust model, because sharing platforms aren't sharing really much when talking about data, about trust. Do you think, isn't there a way to think about how sharing platforms can exchange a certain level of trust data? So because I joined BlaBlaCar about 4 weeks ago, and then I started with a blank profile. Of course, I matched with my Facebook account, but then they know, okay, I got 500 friends on Facebook. And but then I really had to start up building this profile. Isn't there a way about thinking, okay, how can I maybe use my profile on eBay, on Airbnb, or whatever, to also, because then you also lower the threshold for people to start using the platform.
This is like a question for the entire industry, for all the players in the space. There is no answer today. The reason why there is no answer is twofold. The first reason is because the actors themselves don't always want to share this very valuable asset they have built over time, which is the reputation of the community and all the screening which has been done on the community. And the second reason is because we don't even know if trust is transferable from one activity to the other. Just because you're a good driver doesn't mean you're a good host or a good seller on eBay. So those two reasons, I think, are what explains why trust hasn't been shared yet.
Yeah, interesting. We also had some discussion with Carleen. She's also a member of our expert team. She's also a member of the Amsterdam Economic Board, and they were saying about who has to own the trust data. And they made the same like in the Netherlands when your cell phone number. It used to be owned by the telco company, but now it's owned to you as a citizen. So when you change companies, you can take your number with you. And she made the same link with the trust data about, okay, you're going to own those trust data, and when you build up data with Airbnb and you go to another house sharing platform, that you also can use or a part of this data by yourself. So I think it's really interesting discussions, and also really interesting to think about for the future. Last question. Now you raised $100 million. I think almost everybody asks about that. But at what way are you going to earn this money back? So about the business model of BlaBlaCar.
We have a very simple business model, which is transactional. So the more activity you have on the website, the more cost we have, but the more revenues we have as well. So we equilibrate the revenues with the cost. And so it's a very, very scalable business model because the more activity you have, it's balanced. You see, like if you have like 1,000 transactions, which cost like €1,000, then you get €1,000 of revenues to balance for the €1,000 of cost. So it's a very scalable and easy business model, and it's also very. So what we do is like to make things clear is like a driver who publishes a trip for €20. We will sell the trip, for example, for €22 or so, and then we keep €2 for maintaining the service, and then we turn back the €20 to the driver. And this is a very simple transactional model which scales with the activity.
Yeah, it's clear. And what is your biggest dream for BlaBlaCar? Let's say when we're in 5 or 10 years. There must be something to dream about.
It's that I'll be able to use BlaBlaCar anywhere on Earth, like just going anywhere and finding people to help me go to wherever I want to.
Okay, well, let's do it. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.